Let me record.
Yep.
Oh, do you want to stop? Oh, so you are good.
Excellent. I've got about 3 minutes to 9, so do we want to give folks about 5 minutes to get logged on?
I think we should, because we just got one more participant. So if you want to hang tight for just a couple minutes, we had 30 registered.
Nice.
So yeah, we might we'll hold off for just a second. Amanda says, good morning from Cordova.
Oh, excellent. Good morning back. It's a beautiful day here.
Oh, good.
Are you going to make everybody's microphones live so they can go ahead and ask questions as we go?
I wasn't going to. I have a question and answer box that they can pop in.
Okay.
George says, good morning from Seattle.
Good morning, George. And I can see now all the questions that have come up.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It's pretty exciting to have 30 people signed up for this.
Yeah. Yeah, we were super excited for that one. So we have 10 so far.
Great.
Maybe we'll give them another minute or so and go ahead and start.
Yeah, I am just having 9 o'clock right now. So, you know, if people are having technical difficulties or are having to download Zoom, you know, let's give it a few more minutes.
Okay.
Okay, great. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Karen Petersen, and I am the Biomass Coordinator for Southeast Conference. Southeast Conference is an Alaska Regional Development Organization based out of Juneau. It's a nonprofit, and I work in partnership with quite a few state and government agencies, including the Alaska Center for Energy and Power, which is hosting this webinar today, and the Alaska Energy Authority. And we're just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to talk about how Southeast Island School District is converting, you know, is integrating growing lettuce and produce in with their biomass heat programs. And let's see if I can make this go. Let's see, enter, there we go. So where is Southeast Island School District? If you look on this map, I put a little arrow down here, and actually the arrow has shifted suddenly, and it's actually pointing at Long Island, but the big island there right off the coast of Southeast Alaska is Prince of Wales Island. And here's a better map that shows where all of Southeast Island School District's schools are. So basically it's a school district located in Southeast Alaska that has a lot of remote, small school districts in a lot of different places. Some of them, like Port Protection and Port Alexander, are only accessible by float plane or by personal boat. There's no ferry service there, there's no jet service there, there's no roads, obviously, to any of these places. And I want to be very clear what we are talking about today. Southeast Island School District is moving toward making a full district conversion to cordwood boilers. And there's a few pictures here that demonstrate those kind of boilers. At the top, you see this great big gray thing, and that's what I call a naked boiler. It's a boiler that's not installed yet, and it kind of shows you what it looks like. It's got the door on the left-hand side where you would put the wood in, and then you can see it's a great big huge barrel looking thing. Most of that is filled with water, and what these are big hot water heaters that heat hot water that run through your baseboard heaters or your hydronic heater systems, right? So you got a picture down below of Jonathan Fitzpatrick loading wood into the boiler and what it looks like with wood stacked inside. So we're going to start off with just a little bit of a story of how Southeast Island School District started with their boiler installation. This is a picture of an aerial photo of Kaufman Cove and a picture of where the school is up on top of the hill there. It's a small community in Southeast Alaska. About 300 people live here. And their school has about, I think this year they had 17 students. This is what the school looks like. It's basically a 2-room schoolhouse. It's got the elementary grades in one room, and it has the junior high and high school in another room. They've got a small library, and they actually have a 3rd room for the kindergarten kids. So that's what you see in this building here. And then the big portion on the right-hand side is their gymnasium. So this is a picture of their boiler room here on the left and of their greenhouse on the right. So Southeast Island School District was one of the early adopters of putting in these cordwood boilers in their schools. And Kaufman Cove was the very first one that they installed back in 2010. And it's been in operation for 9 years now. And they were able to install this boiler with leftover construction funds. You can see that was a new school that they had built there, and they had money left over after they constructed the school. And so they decided to go out on a limb and see what it would take to heat this with wood, right? And so they installed this wood boiler that you see here, and I'll talk a little bit more about how those work. At the same time, they cleared land right next to the boiler building and ultimately installed a 6,500 square foot greenhouse. It is huge. So just a few little bit of information. Oh, and by the way, if anybody has any questions as we go, please go ahead and just pop in, because I don't mind answering questions. Just a little bit of technical information. They've got 2 Garn 3000s that are built by Garn Dectra, installed in 2010. They use about 50 to 60 cords of wood per year. It depends on how cold it is. They're offsetting 10,000 gallons of heating fuel per year at $4 per gallon. So that's $40,000 that they would be spending if they were heating with diesel. They buy cordwood at $200 a cord, and they're spending about $2,500 to heat the school between buying wood and paying for a high school student to throw the wood into the boiler during the day when the school is in session. On the weekends, they have a teacher who comes in and does it. The teacher gets free heat in exchange for putting it in. So they're saving just about $15,000 to $20,000 a year in heating. But the other part of this is they're paying a kid in the local community to put wood in the boiler, and they're buying that cordwood from local people in the community. So every dime that they are spending on heating their school stays in their community. This photo that you see here was taken last year, and it was taken during a cordwood operator training that we were doing at Kaufman Cove. One of the things that we've started doing now is trainings for people that are operating these systems, because while it looks like it's pretty simple to throw wood into a boiler, and there's a little bit more involved, such as cleaning filters and taking water samples. So we're doing these trainings on an annual basis. So what are they doing with the greenhouse? This is pretty darn cool, right? During the school year, the kids are all participating in growing food in the greenhouse, and on every Wednesday from 3 to 5, they have a farmer's market where you can come to the greenhouse and you can buy produce. You can buy lettuce, herbs, tomatoes, whatever they've got growing. And somebody said, why aren't they open from 10 to 2 or something like that? The reason they're open from 3 to 5 is school gets out at 2:45. So the kids are doing this after school, right? This is continuing on through the summer. So the photo on the right is one that I just took yesterday when I went up to take a look to see if they were still operating that farmer's market, which they are. And this is kind of how it works. They have a refrigerator, and the people that are working there at the greenhouse harvest stuff and they put it into the refrigerator all week long. And so when you show up at the farmer's market, you just go to the refrigerator and you take out the lettuce or the cucumbers or whatever it is that you want. And you can see the door is never locked, right? You can actually show up on Tuesday or Monday and open up that refrigerator and see if there's any produce in there. And if there is, they've got an honor system for the money. There's a little price list on how much everything costs, and you just put your money in the box. And they have been doing this for over a year now with nobody stealing or abusing this system. The school district also has chickens, and so you can buy eggs there, and they have a big orchard. So they're also, in the fall, will be selling apples, pears, cherries, and whatever comes out of the orchard. And I think that's pretty cool. So one of the things that they do in this greenhouse is they are growing produce both via aquaponics and hydroponics. And they're doing them side by side because they're kind of wanting to see which system actually really works better, right? Before the school district converted to aquaponics, I would have told you that they're the same thing because aqua and hydro mean the same thing, but that is not true. Aquaponics is a system for growing plants in a greenhouse where you've got a great big tank of fish. In the case of the school district, they've got goldfish and koi in a big tank. The fish swim around, and just to be blunt about it, they go to the bathroom in the tank, and then that water from the fish tank gets circulated underneath the beds for all of these plants in the aquaponics system, and the plants suck up the nutrients that the fish have put in there, and then the water gets pumped back into the fish tank. Now it's clean because the plants have purified it, and it just goes round and round. So they do not have to add any fertilizer or chemicals to it. It's a little bit tricky. It takes a little while to get that system up and running. It's not easy, and you have to keep the fish warm. The fish don't grow if they're too cold. Goldfish are pretty tolerant, but somebody asked me, and I'll tell you why. They don't use trout or tilapia, which is what they do in other places, because in the state of Alaska, it is illegal to grow food fish in a controlled environment like this. So it's against the law. Hydroponics is a picture on the right, and you see all those tomato plants. To be honest, I don't think they're doing as well as the tomato plants in the aquaponics system. Basically, it's a drip irrigation system, and they add the chemical fertilizer to that. It is much simpler to install, and it much quicker to put those in, but ultimately, you know, I think it requires a lot more expense on the chemical side for the fertilizer. Am I seeing some questions there?
We do. We have a couple actually. The most recent one, it says, what do the fish eat and who feeds them often?
All right, so here's a picture about the fish. Good question. They have a pretty good sized tank for the fish. During the school year, it's the responsibility of the kindergarten and the first and second grade kids to come in and feed the fish. They just buy pelletized fish food for these fish, and they just throw that in there, and they've got a formula for how much fish they're allowed to eat, and the kids really love to feed those fish. So it's just regular fish food, but not the flake stuff that you buy in a pet food store. It's pellets. They look, gosh, they look like Kix cereal, if you want to be honest. They're little round pellets. And these are pretty good sized fish. Another question?
The other question was, you mentioned the teacher, the weekend biomass loader gets free heat.
Yeah.
What buildings are on the heat distribution circuit?
Right. I don't know if I've got it. Nope, I don't have a picture in it. So, so in Kaufman Cove, they are heating the school, the gymnasium, teacher housing, and the greenhouse with biomass. So the teachers have a choice of just paying a flat rate for heat, which is what they would pay if they were heating with heating fuel, or they can take on the chore of loading the boiler after hours or on weekends in exchange for not having to pay for heat. And so the teachers choose to do that. So with these remote schools in Southeast Alaska, and I think this is probably true across Alaska, because housing is so difficult, school districts provide housing for teachers, and they've got 3 housing units at Kaufman Cove School for the 3 teachers that are living there. Okay, so the Kaufman Cove system worked so well, and the school district was able to see right away that they were making, that they were saving money, that they decided that they were going to convert the Thorn Bay school. I live in Thorn Bay, so I was able to watch all of these projects very closely as they grew. So just a little picture of Thorn Bay. This is an aerial photo, and you can see where the school is at the top of the hill. And I put these photos of the community in there because a lot of folks say, well, that'll never work in our town. We're just too small. Well, you can see that these are not big communities. So this is a picture of their wood storage shed here, and attached to the wood storage shed is their greenhouse. It's quite a bit smaller than the greenhouse in Kaufman Cove. One of the things they did with this greenhouse is they poured a big concrete slab and they put in-floor heat in there. So that's how this greenhouse is heated in the winter time. Here's a picture of their boilers. That's my brother standing there. They have 2 Garn 3300s. They're bigger than the ones in Kaufman Cove because the Thorn Bay School is a bigger school. Got about 75 kids that go to that school, which means they've got kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade in one classroom, 3rd, 4th in another classroom, 5th and 6th in the 3rd classroom. So they've got 3 classrooms for the elementary, and then junior high and high school are kind of blended, and they've got 4 classrooms for junior high and high school to rotate through. They started out with smaller boilers here in Thorn Bay, but found out right away that those were not big enough. These were installed in 2013, and they're using more wood, bigger school. They use about 100 cords of wood in this school. The school is an older school. It was constructed in 1985, and it's not as well insulated, and it's much larger. And they are also buying cordwood at $200 a cord. I don't have historic fuel usage for this school, but they've been tracking costs on this one as well, and are estimating that they are saving between $35,000 and $40,000 a year heating with wood versus heating with heating fuel, and that is one teacher's salary. Right? So that's a significant amount of money. And I just want to talk a little bit about the benefit that both of these projects have shown to their communities. When they started out buying firewood from just anybody in the community that wanted to provide firewood to the school. And a lot of people did. They would go out on the weekends and cut 2 or 3 cords of wood and deliver them to the school. And especially in the case of Kasan Cove, that made a huge difference. Folks found that, you know, if they were having a hard time making ends meet on utility bills, they could go cut a couple cords of wood and, you know, pay that electric bill. Or, you know, it's Christmas time and kids wanted presents. They were able to go cut a couple cords of wood and have that money extra for, you know, buying presents. Or if someone needed braces or extra medical, you know, it was a real quick turnaround. But what has happened now is we are now seeing a couple of serious commercial firewood cutters in the communities, both Kasan Cove and Thorn Bay. And they are selling cordwood not only to the school district, but to anybody who wants it. And so, you know, folks at first would say, well, I can go get all the wood I want for free. Yes, you can, but who wants to work that hard? So my husband and myself, we actually go and buy some of our firewood at these commercial firewood cutters. And we have one of the local sawmill owners who has started making what are called bio bricks. That's the picture on the right with the sawdust at his sawmill. And he is selling these to the school district as well. And that pallet of bio bricks that you see on the right is a ton of bio bricks. It is equivalent to a cord of wood, and he is selling that for $200. So it is exactly the same. It just comes nicely shrink wrapped. I see some questions.
We do have one. It says, what is the glazing on the greenhouses? Glass or plastic? Double or single?
They're using that that plastic that is double, you know, so it's got a little airspace in between it. It's like Lexan, but it's not. That's not the brand. It's a different brand, and they're using plastic for a couple of reasons. It has almost exactly the same transparency as glass, not quite as opaque, but it doesn't break. You know, we have windstorms here, branches fly around, glass breaks is a mess to clean up, and when you've got kids in school, it's a liability. So they went with the really good grade of plastic. And I guess it holds heat better in the wintertime.
Oh, nice. Did the Thorn Bay boilers replace modular container boilers that were originally installed?
Yes, you're going to see a picture of one of those in a second.
Okay, and we got one more question.
Yep.
In both cases,
okay.
In both cases, do the schools have established procedure to dry the wood prior to burning? And did they build structures to do this?
So these are good questions. And so what happened was with the first boiler, they didn't do that, right? With the Kasan Cove boiler, they built the storage shed simultaneously with the boilers. But as they quickly found out, dry wood burns better than wet wood. So with the second boiler and all of their subsequent boiler installations, when they knew they were going to be installing the boiler, they immediately built a woodshed and started buying and paying for wood from the local community to dry that out. And their goal was to have 2 years of cordwood under the roof before the boiler started operation. And ideally, they wanted to heat their boiler, use just the dry wood for that. So in all of their sites now, they could stop buying firewood and have 2 years of fuel under storage, which is actually a pretty good deal. But because of the local economic benefit, they're and obviously you want to keep wood coming in one side while you're burning it on the other side.
Definitely. Last one. About the bio bricks, are they vulnerable to moisture? Any difference in heating value or temperature? And could coffee grounds be mixed in?
Those are good questions. So yeah, they are vulnerable to moisture. You don't want them to get rained on, because what happens is they just turn back into sawdust and they don't burn very well or at all. So you want to keep them under cover. That's why the mill shrink wraps them the way that they do. They are fairly resistant to damp, like if it's damp in the air outside. So that's not been an issue in any of the sites, but just not getting, tons of rain on them. And while the sawmill in Klawock does not put coffee grinds into their bricks, I know of other places where they are incorporating coffee grinds into their bricks. So just a quick picture. This is the Thorn Bay greenhouse. The picture on the left is their hydroponics system. They converted to the picture on the right, which is their aquaponics system, because they have found that that works a lot better. And on the picture on the right, you see the kids in the high school. They're out there planting. In the summertime, the school district hires kids to keep those greenhouses planted and growing, so that they are providing lettuce year-round, even when school is not in session. In Alaska, at least in rural communities, they provide lunch for kids even in the summertime, Monday through Friday. And in Thorn Bay, they actually provide breakfast and lunch free to every child in the community. And so this lettuce is being provided as part of that lunch program on a year-round basis. They're also integrating growing these vegetables in the greenhouse as part of their science curriculum. And so the kids in these schools are very, very knowledgeable about the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, how plants grow, and all those aspects, which is pretty darn cool. I think that's something that not all schools get. In the school district, they also have an enterprise. So the kids are selling the lettuce, selling the produce, both at the farmer's market and, to folks in the local community and some of the local restaurants. The kids have to do all the bookkeeping for that. So it teaches them basic business skills. So they're integrating food into the curriculum, starting from young kids. So this is a photo of the first grade class in Nocatee learning how to plant flowers. They plant flowers for the baskets that they sell in the summertime to folks in the community. Thorn Bay, they're feeding 75 students in their school lunch program, and they also have chickens at all of the school sites. They sometimes have little tragedies with bears getting those chickens, but in general, they've had a lot of success with chickens. And you can see here, they've got the greenhouse open at the Thorn Bay School, and they're selling it at the grocery store, and they're selling it to several of the restaurants on Prince of Wales Island. So who makes it happen, right? It's people that make it happen. In this case, the school district was really lucky. They had 2 people that were instrumental in making these boilers happen at their school district. The guy on the left is Jonathan Fitzpatrick. He's their maintenance guy, but he's also a pipe fitter, and he has been huge in getting these installed and working right. And he is really very, very good at this. And so they were lucky to have a maintenance person with his caliber. The guy on the right is the superintendent for the school district. He had the vision to make this happen, you know, and his statement to me was, I don't care if we don't save money, as long as we're not spending more money to heat the schools, because all of that money stays in our community and benefits our community, and the kids get healthier food. Right, so just a couple of photos, other Southeast Island schools. This is the Hollis School on the left, and someone was asking about those modular containers. So on the right-hand side, you see that little brown box. That's what we call a garn in a box. It's a boiler in a box. It's on skids. You see those big eye hooks on the bottom? It's a prototype that is intended to be delivered into small rural communities. It's supposed to come in on the barge, they can offload it, bring it right next to a building, and then just attach it. There's not a lot of plumbing that has to get involved in that, and it comes with its own little building, which I thought was kind of a cool. And this is one of the boilers that was installed in the Thorn Bay school, and they found out it was too small. But you can see on the left-hand side that Hollis School is not that big. It's also a 2-room schoolhouse. They've got about 21 kids in that school, and you can see they've got their big garden there on the left-hand side, and right at the bottom of the photo, they've got goats as well as chickens. So they've got quite the agricultural setup going on there. Kasan is the school on the left. You can see their boiler is sitting there. That's a naked boiler that has not been framed in yet, but they're already got the big pile of firewood sitting there on the basketball court on the right-hand side. And then that's a 1-room school. They had 15 kids in that school last year. And Whale Pass, they've got a brand new boiler there. It operated this last heating season, it's hard to tell from this photo, but it also has an attached greenhouse. All of the Southeast Island schools have boilers and attached greenhouses. This photo in this, on this thing is a picture of the Kasan greenhouse. And this is the cover of the Biomass-heated Greenhouse, and it's a handbook for schools and community organizations. So if you are thinking about putting in a wood boiler, or you already have one, but you're thinking of attaching a greenhouse to it, or maybe you have a greenhouse, but you would like to heat it with wood, whichever way. This is a handbook that kind of helps guide you through how to figure out how to do it, what considerations you have to have, and leads you to, you know, where you might get more resources and help. And this is available online, and I've got the web link here at the end of this PowerPoint, and I'm almost done. I'm very close to done, and then we'll do questions and answers. So what's cool about Southeast Island School District? Remember that guy, Jonathan, that installs these boilers? Well, they loan him out to other schools, right? And so they just loaned him out to the Heidelberg School District, and they just installed 2 Garn boilers. You can see them under construction there. They're being delivered on the left-hand side, and then under construction in the middle. And look at that building there on the right-hand side. They are also putting in a greenhouse. So here's some resources, a couple of YouTube videos. At the very bottom is the website, and I'll leave this up while we do questions and answers. But that alaskawoodenergy.com has some links to YouTube, the YouTube videos, and it also has a link to that Alaska Biomass-heated Greenhouse Handbook. So questions?
All right, we have building on the coffee ground question. Have they considered,
okay.
Have they considered adding cardboard or paper waste?
So we're, Amanda's in Cordova right now, and we are looking at a potential project in Cordova for burning cardboard, but cardboard has its own problems. In the state of Alaska, it's considered municipal solid waste and comes under a whole different set of regulations for burning. So whereas in my mind, cardboard is like wood, only in a different form. Burning it is more challenging.
And then the next question, is this being recorded for audio with sharing with others? And yes,
I believe so. Yeah, and the coffee grind question is interesting. I know that there's a guy that makes bio bricks for people to use in their fireplaces. I think he's in Minnesota, and he goes around to all of the espresso places and he collects their coffee grinds and he blends that in with his bio bricks. And I guess they put off a lovely little coffee aroma as they're burning. What I do not know is, does it affect the BTU output? What he told me was it does not, but people can say anything, and I don't know that for a fact.
That is all the questions that I have.
Awesome. So you've recorded this, and this is going to be on the ACEP website?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. So it's pretty cool, and I wonder if I put my, oh, there it is. My name and my email at the bottom of this page. So if people are going along and they think of a question later on today, just send me an email, or tomorrow or next week.
The questions are coming in. I got a couple more if you have a minute.
I have tons of minutes.
All right. Do the greenhouses use fan coils to do the heating or radiant floors?
It depends on the location. So the Thorn Bay School has Infloor Heat, so that's radiant infloor heat. And when they built that woodshed, they poured the concrete slab for that greenhouse right away, and they put that infloor heat in. In some places, they just run heat through the beds. They don't run it in the floor. But I think most of the schools have those overhead air, blowing through a heat coil.
Let's see. What kind of interaction is happening with other regions? Yukon Territory?
Right. So, well, you saw that Southeast Island School District was mentoring Heidelberg School District on their boiler installation, and they're actually, I think they're going to be going up to they're going to go to Huslia and help with that installation as well. So they are, as people reach out, they are going out and consulting and working with other communities. As far as the Yukon, we just had the Alaska Yukon Wood Energy Conference in Fairbanks. And there are discussions now to have the next conference in Whitehorse in 2021. And that would be the Yukon Alaska Wood Energy Conference, but that's not firm yet. So we are trying to do quite a bit of cross-border collaboration because the similarities between Yukon communities and Alaskan communities are pretty high.
Do you know of anyone is collecting long-term energy cost comparison data or for each system?
I think that ACEP, Alaska Center for Energy and Power, has done some case studies, but those are generally a snapshot in time. So, you do a case study and it's right now, it doesn't go on into the future. I know that Southeast Island School District is collecting data over time, but I don't know if it's being formalized into any kind of a report. So, and that would be a fantastic master's thesis, wouldn't it, to go through and do a 5-year analysis of, cost savings, because the cost savings, someone goes, well, how much do they save a year? And I said, well, it depends on how much heating fuel is this year. When the cost of heating fuel is higher, their savings are more, right?
Sure. What would help expand this concept?
As far as heating, well, we try to do these presentations everywhere we go. The thing is it does take somebody on the local level to have the vision to do this, right? And part of it is seeing it. So going and visiting a system is super helpful because then you can say, yeah, that's something we could probably do. But there's also an investment of time and energy that is involved. So I find some school districts especially are interested in this, but they don't have the time or energy to figure out how to do it. So that I don't know how to solve.
I noticed the "and worms" on one of the students' nitrogen cycling posters. Are these invasive earthworms?
Gosh, I think what they're doing is I think they're using worms in their composting systems. So they're using the worm composting, and I don't know that I've never heard of invasive worms. So I don't know that they are invasive. We get the red wigglers, those little red skinny worms that creep me out, and then the bigger night crawlers, those big fat ones that we're all familiar with. And I think they use both.
Does the pitch of the wood matter? I'm in Fairbanks with lots of birch, aspen, and black spruce.
Oh, you mean as far as burning in the boiler? I think that from what I understand, wood is wood is wood. What it has to be is dry. So every different wood has a different BTU output. So hemlock and cedar is what we have mostly down here in Southeast Alaska, and Sitka spruce. I know that they say that the cedar burns hotter and faster, so they try to blend those varieties. But what the combustion folks tell me is that if the wood is seasoned, it should perform equally in the boilers.
It is very interesting to learn about costs for the heating circuitry. Is that available?
Oh, you mean as far as the boiler installation?
It says for heating circuitry. I'll ask them to clarify.
Okay, well, I'll just talk a little bit about costs, right? So with every boiler that gets installed, there's a different cost associated with it, depending on what kind of plumbing it has to get attached to, what kind of existing heat system is in the building already. Like most buildings that I'm familiar with have been baseboard heat or hydronic heat. But we've recently come across a project that wants to integrate into a forced air system. That's probably going to cost a little bit more money to convert. I'm reluctant to talk about numbers because if I say, oh, the Thorn Bay boiler installation costs $200,000 or roughly $100,000 per boiler, then people lock into that cost. You know, they either think it's too expensive or if they go and look at it and they find that their boiler is going to be a little bit more, then they're upset that that's the case. So it's always difficult to talk about it. But there are on the ACEP reports, the Alaska Center for Energy and Power reports, costs of installation that, and it also shows where the funding came from.
And I think that's what he clarified. He said the cost for trenching, running pipes, insulation, et cetera, between the buildings.
Right. They use those insulated hot water pipes to put in the ground. And I think those things run $30 a foot. So the further away you have to run hot water, the more that's going to cost. But, you know, it's just the cost of installation. And once you are installed, then you're saving money, right?
Yeah. Is the garn in a box insulated for the Arctic climate?
There is some insulation in that building. I do not know what R value it has. They built those garn in a boxes specifically for Alaska. But I think they're finding that you can actually do better by building your own building and insulating that yourself. So that's a good question that I cannot clarify.
All right, it looks like that is all the questions that we have.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Send me an email if you have any questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Karen.
All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.